My name is Jan Barker Alexander. I'm an Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Black Community Services Center. As well, I'm also the Resident Fellow in Ujamaa House, which is one of the 4 ethnic theme houses within residential education. Often when I'm talking to parents and to students, one of their first questions when we're talking about housing, they're like, well, what really does residential education mean? And I like to say, and as our department says, it's about creating a living and learning environment. Understand that all learning doesn't happen in the classroom. I think the beauty of living in this residential education model is that it creates a smaller environment for you. Stanford has roughly 6,500 undergraduate students, and to some that might feel large. Compared to other schools, it's not that large. But what we want to do is try to meet the needs of all of our students. So by living in our dorms, that living learning experience, you're doing it with a cohort, and these are the people that you're going to know for the rest of your life. That's about creating a small college feel within a larger institution. Being at an institution like Stanford, it is definitely about the life of the mind. But we like to say it's also about the life of the mind, body, soul, and spirit. This is about your personal journey. This is about learning who you are, what's important to you, and how do we tie that into some of the classroom work that you're doing. So in talking about UJ, I think the first thing you'll hear people say, oh my God, they have the tightest chance at new student orientation. This is a reputation that we definitely like to uphold. But I like to think of Ujamaa being one of the ethnic theme houses, but also being more of an academic house. In saying that we're an academic house, it is about your intellectual journey here at Stanford. So while the house may be known as the African and African American themed house, what it means is that the intellectual engagement is focused on the African diaspora. The other, I think, misnomer about being in an ethnic theme house is that it's an all-black house. I think that Stanford was very forward-thinking in the 70s when it said, you know, we want these themed houses to be centrally focused on these academic themes, but we want only half of that ethnicity to live in the house. So the other half is not of the African diaspora. What we tell our students by living in Ujamaa, this is the one time probably in your entire life that you are going to have such a diverse experience in terms of thought, in terms of people, in your living situation. So the role of a resident fellow is to help create the intellectual tone for the residence hall. But honestly, it's much more than that. So like at 8 in the morning when I'm having breakfast with students, it's about talking to them about being afraid of the class load that they have. How can they manage their time because they've never been in a space and place where they don't have mom and dad saying, did you do your homework? At noon, it might be more about, you know, I'm having issues at home. I'm not sure how I'm going to balance that here at the institution. You move into 6 p.m. where you are facilitating a conversation with students around racism in cartoons, from Dumbo to X-Men. And a student, an upperclassman, is actually presenting the material and watching the faces of students aged 17 to 21 look at a cartoon from the 20s, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, all in blackface, all with the dwarfs being named sleepy, lazy, shiftless, and to watch that reaction of a multicultural group of students listening to this piece of our history. But to be able to then channel that and talk about the progress that has been made in America, and also be able to talk about how more progress is needed. In talking to students about living in Ujamaa, they understand the legacy that they live, to let them know who has walked these halls. Charles Ogletree, professor at Harvard Law School. They live in the legacy of Jeff Rakes, who was an RA here for 2 years, who's been the president of Microsoft and now over the Gates Foundation. And also they live in the legacy of Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett is on the team for Obama. That is what living in UJ is about. It's not just about your 4 years, but it's also about the people who've been here before you, and also the people who will come after you that you will help to support in some way.